So today I have, as always, another amazing and very kind and loving and wonderful guest, and she's got the best name. I mean, how could you not want to, to connect with this person? And you will after you hear her story and listen to her teachings. You'll really make a heart-to-heart connection with her. Her name is Martha Blessing. How awesome is that? Blessing. Martha, I'll just read her bio real quick, and then we'll bring her on, and we'll just we'll get a chance to hear her journey, which has been a fascinating, very powerful one. And I've heard a little bit of it, but I'm looking forward to going even deeper today with Martha's story. So Martha Blessing she's an author, speaker, medical intuitive, a spiritual teacher, health advocate, and visionary healer. She speaks and lectures in the fields of metaphysical healing, energy medicine, and spiritual growth, as well as offering one-on-one coaching, meditation, and healing programs. I'll put it out there right now. She has an amazing meditation that we'll talk about in a little bit, and also a CD based on this meditation. It's called the Love Meditation. So we'll talk about that today too. Martha devoted 25 years to mainstream medicine as a registered nurse in community health, hospice care, and as the director of an Alzheimer's unit. After healing herself from 10 years of chronic pain, reversing fibromyalgia, she had 3 back surgeries, and she actually had to live in a wheelchair for a while. Martha returned to her ancestral roots as an intuitive and spiritual teacher and healer, and she's now helping people all over the world to heal their lives. And this is really exciting. Martha, she just released her new book, which, I mean, her name is amazing, but check out this book title. So cool. The title is God is a Pink Cloud, and we'll talk about that and where that came from today. And God is a Pink Cloud, which expands on her teachings. This book shares her belief that we are not helpless to change our physical reality and move towards a life of health, vitality, and joy, and free from illness, disease, pain, and suffering. And you can learn more about Martha's work at marthablessing.com. Martha, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Michael. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and this is, talk about spontaneous. I might as well just throw it out there. Yeah, I asked you to be on the show, I don't know, like an hour and 20 minutes ago, or an hour and a half, maybe max. And this just shows you, how great and spontaneous and in a yes way of being that Martha is. She's like, yeah, okay, I'll go on.
I have to be free. Great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so happy that this worked out, because you have such a phenomenal story and powerful teachings that I know, especially our Hay House audience will really connect with. But as you and I have spoken before, also your teachings are really so needed in the medical community, and you spent, of course, 25 years in that environment. And so I'd love to have you share a little bit of your journey. Where you were in the medical industry, why you left, and then you've had so many challenges to work through, yet here you are now, this amazing inspirational teacher. So yeah, would you mind sharing a little bit about your journey so far?
Sure. It's really, Michael, honestly, it sounds a little canned maybe, but it truly was by the grace of God that I healed the things that I did. And I started as a nurse in Western medicine, but almost within 2 years of working as a nurse and being in nursing school, I started having back problems. And I followed that model in the medical world for probably the first third of my journey. I injured myself working, lifting a patient. And that sort of started the whole snowball of living with chronic pain and succumbing to that world. That was all that I knew was medicine. And so I went with what they said. I went with what they told me to do. But there was some kind of voice. There was some kind of knowing inside of me at one point. I had my first surgery. I got hurt in 1987, and I didn't have my first back surgery until 1989. And during that year and a half, I was taking large amounts of narcotics, muscle relaxers, Motrin, and there was just something I knew. I think it was that actual training in medicine that told me that if I continued on that path, I was going to develop side effects and other problems from all of those medications. So I started to change my thinking and search for some other way, some other answers. I couldn't accept that this was going to be my fate. And I went ahead and had that first surgery, but I still lived with pain every single day. And I still took the drug. So that was my inspiration to start to turn over rocks and places that I could find some other answers. And at the time, 30 years ago, there certainly was not the abundance of information that we have now, and the internet, and so many spiritual groups and people that are out in our communities. So I really had to struggle to find answers and find support. And then prior to my second surgery, I was in a wheelchair. And I talk about that in the book because it really was quite a mystical and magical experience that led me out of that wheelchair. The doctors said that I would not be able to probably walk again independently on my own. And having been a competitive figure skater and someone who's very active, I just found that really, really hard to accept and to believe. And so I talk about in my book this experience, and it's where the title came from, The God is a Pink Cloud. And I don't say that everyone has to have a mystical experience to heal. That was just my path. And I sat in the doctor's office, really in disbelief when he told me that I would not be able to walk. And I saw this vision of a pink cloud coming down from the sky over the doctor and literally just swirling around him. And it separated the two of us. It protected him and it protected me. And I heard a voice that said, "Don't take this. You don't have to take this." And at the time, I really thought I had had a narcotic overdose. I thought I was hallucinating. And it took me a little time to process that information and to really look back. And there was sort of a movie playing out for me. And there was information in all of these little pieces that I had to observe and then integrate into my life and integrate into my being. And it was right around that time that the doctors diagnosed me with fibromyalgia as well. And that voice continued to say, "Don't take it. You don't have to take it." And so I was always pushing it away, not allowing it to come into my reality. But it still was my reality. I was living with pain every day. So I ended up having a third back surgery. Even after that, the second one ended up to be successful, and I was able to walk again. And I talk about in the book the miracle that occurred, and the doctor still, even after it happened, could not really accept that it was a miracle, or he just had to kind of write it off and didn't believe that it could happen for anyone else. So that's why I do what I do, and I've gone down this journey, I believe, to give this message to people who are out there who are suffering not only with chronic pain and fibromyalgia, but all illnesses. I've come to learn and believe that we don't have to learn our lessons through pain and illness anymore. We're in a new paradigm. I believe that when I came through my lessons, I was still in that old paradigm, and then we have a new paradigm now. and that the healing can happen spontaneously rather than having to keep going back through all of these pains and these problems and these injuries. So that was my path.
Well, it's a powerful one, and I know you're just really scratching the surface here, because you do write a lot about your journey in the book, and as someone who has witnessed the I don't know the word is, it's just the suffering, I guess, that comes from fibromyalgia, seeing my mom for many, many years who has struggled with this. And, there was a time when her doctors were basically just over-medicating her. They would give her this for the pain, and then, of course, this one created all these different side effects, so then they threw this one at her that would, handle those side effects, but then this one created side effects. There was a point where I think she was on 10, 11, 12 different medications, and she just felt like a zombie. She said, I would rather feel the pain or find an alternative to working on this pain to be just walking through life in a haze. And my mom, who is just, those of you that have read my work and have heard me speak, that she is a huge, huge inspirational figure in my life. And it's one of the things that I've always felt that has made the biggest difference in, and she still feels some pain and she still struggles with it, but although she's given up, I think like 99% of the drugs, is just her attitude and her willingness to fully show up every day with an open heart. And it just leaves me in awe to see her overcome something that can really be very crippling. Do you have any thoughts or advice for anybody out there listening that they're struggling with some kind of a chronic pain? What are some steps that they can begin to take to alleviate this pain in their life?
That's a great question.
Or what did you do in the beginning?
There's a lot of things. And, in the beginning, I didn't know very much. And I stayed stuck. If I had advice for someone now, it's to not stay stuck in your head is the first thing. Because I started reading a lot of books and wanted to get a lot of information, but what I found that did, and don't get me wrong, I love books. I have a bookstore.
You wrote a book.
Yeah, I wrote a book. I love everything about books. We need books.
Right.
But we don't need to stay stuck and ruminate. And I did that in the beginning. I read some books and I stayed in my head and I tried to figure out, now let's see, which chakra did I screw up? And, and it's that old, you can't fix it. You're with the same problem that created it, with that mind that created it.
Right.
And so the number one thing, the first place that I start with people, and I learned the things not to do, or the things that didn't really work. And I can't tell you how important it is to get into your physical body, to get out of your head and experience meditation, experience energy healing, but more than just going and, plopping down on someone's table. That keeps an individual in the place that I talk about as the 3 levels of consciousness and healing, and that still keeps us stuck with the solution being outside ourselves, with someone else being responsible to fix it for us. When we go to the doctor, they're fixing it. And even holistic practitioners, we need those things. And I did that for years with clients, but I watched how they would come once a month and plop on the table and expect me to fix them, and then go out into the world and they're outside themselves again. And they're not really going inside and learning to become their own healer. And we can do that with the meditations. We can do that.
A lot of people tend to give away their power. They don't realize that their ability to heal, it's within, that they have the tools, that they have, everything you would ever need to heal your body. It's there. It's just a matter of awakening it. And that's what I've seen you do with your work, is that you really seem to have a gift for awakening people, creating this awareness so they know that, listen, it's not me I'm not going to touch you and then you're magically healed, that you're just going to awaken that part of themselves so that they can truly heal themselves.
Yeah, thank you. It's awakening, and I actually call it the remembrance. It's reconnecting people to the truth. It's awakening and connecting when they can go inside and see who they really truly are. I've had the rich gift of being able to see and connect to my soul. And it's so clean and clear and pure, and it's just love and light. And that's who every single human being is. No matter what they're presenting to us, that family member or whomever, how they look. But the truth is that's who they are inside. And when they're connected to that, or reconnected to it, when they can find that place inside themselves, they may not live there 24/7, but they'll know it is real and they can come back to it.
Now, for yourself personally, because we've had talks before about we're human, we're human beings, and even the wisest among us, they struggle. And if they tell you that they don't struggle and that they're totally enlightened, then I've always said, be a little leery, because as long as we're on this physical plane. And so I know, you're human, and but having experienced this, of being able to really witness your own soul and to have this inner knowing, I'm sure there are times when you become disconnected from that. Do you have a method for bringing yourself back and that remembrance piece of really remembering who you are?
I do, and that's the meditation. That's the love meditation. And I do it every day. Some days I'm more centered in it than others. There's no question. But that's the only place and the only thing that I found. And I actually used that love meditation. I'll just share with you a little bit about what makes a difference in doing this specific meditation. I have been a practitioner of yoga. I have spent a lot of time in the, Hindu and healing arts and Ayurveda, and I meditated. But the intention in the meditations, as I learned them in the beginning, was to quiet the mind. And my goodness, everybody's on their cell phones, and we're just an ADD culture with all of this technology and whatnot. And I've been witnessing in my practice and at my store and at my shop, people are just having such a hard time with that quieting the mind. And of course, there's the idea that I'm not doing the meditation right, and then that becomes more noise and more chatter and more negative self-talk. What happened to me was I was really guided to a meditation, and instead of its intention being to quiet the mind, it actually drops a person, like I lead these meditations, it drops the participants right into the center of their heart. So we don't spend a lot of time trying to quiet the mind, but instead we go into the center of the chest, into the heart center, and there's an expansion of really sunlight, of healing and of light. And as that grows, we marry that with a feeling of a particular place or person or time that we feel or felt deep, deep love. And those two things marry and combine, and it just builds with each breath. And by default, you're not in your head anymore because you're in your heart. And you can't be in the two places at the same time.
Well, That's very true. That's very true, and that seems to be this whole shifting from the head to the heart. As simplistic as it may sound, I have personally found it's the most powerful thing that we can do for ourselves. And like you were saying with technology and in the world that we live in today, I mean, our mind is just like a beehive, just buzzing nonstop. And if we can remove ourselves from there, even for sometimes it's just a matter of seconds, and if you can reconnect to your heart, then it's almost like feeling like you're home again. That's the experience that I've had with doing different meditations, is that when you get back into that space in your heart, you feel like, this is natural. This is where I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Where much of the world thinks that we are our thoughts, and we just live up in our head. I'm curious. I'd love to know, where did this meditation come from? What inspired it? Oh, it must be a good story. You're
That's
laughing.
A loaded question. Loaded question. The meditation actually came. I was living at Kripalu Center up in Lenox, Massachusetts. I was doing a training program. I was living there for 4 months. And I was sitting in meditation, and I was connected to my grandmother, Flossie, as she's lovingly known to many people. And she guided me into this meditation. I sat in my room, and there were a lot of things going on. Typically when you get into these kinds of trainings and workshops, it's a really good opportunity for a lot of your stuff to come up and to come out, and you process a lot of things. It's never just about yoga teacher training or becoming an Ayurvedic practitioner. You're there for spiritual self-development and growth. And that's what had been happening to me. And I sat in the meditation, and all of a sudden, she just guided me. She just led me with all of the words, with all of the visualizations. And I did that meditation for about 3 or 4 days. And then when I came back to it on the 4th, 5th day, she said, now I want you to take that, and I want you to move that love to all of the areas in your body. I had gotten out of the wheelchair. I had had the back surgeries. I had overcome all of those things, but I still had the symptoms of fibromyalgia in my body. I still had that daily pain. And so I sat there, and I did as she guided me, and I moved that energy. Some people say, well, I don't feel energy. I don't know how to move energy. It's really in the mind's eye. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you feel it in your body. It's helpful if you do, but not everyone does. That doesn't mean that you can't heal. And so I moved it from each one of the trigger points. I started in my neck and my shoulders and my back, and I held that space. I held that healing sunlight, that warm golden light, and that feeling of deep, deep love. And one of two things will happen when you get to those places, whether it's a frozen shoulder or a knee or a hip. When you hold that energy and that light and that love in that space in your body, number one, you've moved towards it instead of away from it. Most people are trying to move away from it. But you've now told the universe and God and yourself and your higher self, you're going to move towards this. And there may be a very important message that's then being held in that spot. It may be that that person is going to hear a message or receive a message or something that they need to let go of or to change in order for this to completely go away. or it could just instantaneously dissolve. And I have witnessed that, and I have watched other people witness it. That just bringing the light to it and making that choice and decision that we're going to love it. You know me, feed it love. We're going to love it. And in that love, we recognize ourselves as we are. We are love. We recognize ourselves as that love, and we accept our body as that love, and it dissolves. It instantly dissolves because we've moved into it instead of trying to annihilate it or annihilate the message.
And you've worked with a lot of people doing this. I know you've done this in groups and online meditation. Do you have a story that stands out of seeing someone that was just completely transformed, that that maybe even coming into it, they had a lot of resistance and this stuff doesn't work for me, but then there was a shift that took place. Have you had an experience like that?
There have been a lot. There have been several. And sometimes there's one lady who came to me, and on her intake, her initial intake with me, she put down as her primary goal for her health and well-being was to prevent a recurrence of breast cancer. And so in the beginning, the very first 15 minutes of our time together, 5 times she had told me and repeated to me about the things that were wrong in her life. She's 50-ish years old, and she was getting ready to go back to work. She was telling me all of the things that she hadn't done or the things that were wrong because she never went to college. So here she was for all these 35 years beating herself up about not going to college. And we used that energy. We looked at the things where she could turn around and start accepting and loving herself. And she used the meditation. And at the same time, we had her focus on the joy that she got from singing and playing music. Because those were things that she had just completely let go of, that really fed her soul and nurtured her and made her feel worthy, that it was something that she was good at. She didn't see herself as good at other things because she never went to college. So it was sort of a flipping of the energy, if you will. And so she used that same meditation and held that space in her heart center and in her chest to bring that feeling of love to herself and dissolve and heal that whole chest and that heart area.
Well,
and she went on in peace. She just was probably about a month, I would say, where she finally came in and said, I'm not worried anymore.
That's a huge shift right there from the head to the heart, to be able to say, I'm not worried anymore. I think most people would admit that, they worry on a daily basis about a lot of things. And if you can use a meditation to remove even an ounce of fear from your life, that's just a huge step toward finding, peace, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it for yourself. But again, because when you talked about focusing on her gifts and her talents and what she had to offer, that clearly put her back in her heart. Yeah. And got her out of her head and that whole, I didn't go to college mentality, which, I can honor that because I've been there. The first to admit, I got out of high school, barely, and I did not pursue a formal education. I ended up being a professional photographer and used those skills, for 16 years. But I know that there was a time when I would feel less than, because I would see all my friends that went to college, and you don't want to go to class reunions and all of those things. So that's a major shift that you provided for her, and one that is it's lasting. I'm sure it's not, and that's the impression I get from this meditation. It's not just you feel good for 5 minutes or 10 minutes afterwards, or even the next day. It seems that this is something that can have lasting effects, that the momentum of it can just shift everything for you, allowing you to live a more open-hearted life.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because it's cumulative. There's something in it. There's a power in it that things happen quickly, or can happen quickly. Like it feels like it's just a speeded up, because I've done a lot of meditations, but for whatever reason, it's cumulative, and so it just happens quicker. The person can come back to that place of knowing the truth, of being the truth again. And it appears to dissolve an awful lot of resistance.
So is there any way that you could share just a brief introduction to this? I know you have a CD that's coming out over the next couple of weeks, and that will be available on your website, marthablessing.com, as well as your book. Your book is also, there's a link to your book on the website as well, correct?
Correct.
So if you go to marthablessing.com, there'll be the book, God is a Pink Cloud, and that visual and the cover too. I just love the cover to see that big fluffy cloud. So everybody listening, definitely check that out. And then the meditation CD, which is, you said, about 20 minutes long or so.
The meditation itself is about 20 minutes. Yeah.
20 minutes. Okay. So, and I don't even think we have that much time left on the show. So
yeah.
Is there any way that you could just give us like 2 or 3 minutes of just a brief idea of how someone could go into this, or just a condensed version that maybe people could take home with them today?
Yeah. The simplest way to do the meditation and to get into that space is, first of all, I tell people, actually, my favorite, I had music that was specifically written and created for this meditation by a friend. But prior to that, I will say that the only music that I recommend to anyone is Wayne Dyer's I Am CD meditation. It's magical. And until they can get my CD, they need to have music. That is what I recommend to people, because it does not, a lot of people put different CDs on, and their minds are so busy. They play different CDs all the time.
So you're saying I can't meditate well with AC/DC or Metallica playing in the background?
Some people can. I'm not one of them.
No,
some
neither
people,
am I.
that is a meditation.
That's true. That and a six-pack, It's like, yeah.
No question.
I have some friends, that's their meditation. It's like, go for it.
Yeah.
So music, yes. And the I Am CD, I have listened to it, and you're right. It's very, very powerful. It's beautiful.
The reason why I say that is to listen to the same piece of music over and over, so that your mind does not wander in, oh, there's a waterfall, or, oh, there's it wants to go to a different place and pay attention to the music instead of dropping into the heart. So whatever music they choose, that's what I would recommend. And then sitting, in a quiet, comfortable place, obviously. And the first thing to do is to just begin to become aware of yourself in this space, in this time, in this moment, that you're committing to this. And there's no place you need to go. There's nothing you need to do or take care of. It's 20 minutes out of your day. got to give yourself 20 minutes. If you can't give yourself 20 minutes, that's a whole nother problem.
Yeah.
You know.
And best in the morning? Do you suggest in the morning over
I
the...
suggest morning,
Okay.
but for some people, honestly, it just doesn't fit into their day. They're getting kids off. That's one of the reasons why we did the meditation at noontime, because I wanted to be able to get people who are in their work environments and whatever. Everybody gets a lunch hour. You know,
Oh, when you did the online group
Yeah,
meditation,
yeah,
so you did it at lunchtime.
yeah.
Okay.
But you know, I mean, they can do this. Have the music on your iPhone or whatever, or your headsets. You know, sit somewhere. If it's not in the morning, do it at lunchtime. I recommend it earlier in the day so that it sets the tone for your day, so that you are connected to yourself and the truth and in your heart. If not, then do it at lunchtime. You know, don't wait until the end of the day and it's 8 o'clock and you're exhausted. And don't do it in bed, because you're just going to fall asleep.
Yeah, that's
You know,
true.
you're not going to get the benefit of it. There's a difference between guided relaxation and meditation. And a lot of people are doing guided relaxation, which is certainly beneficial, but they're not doing the meditation. They're not getting out of their consciously awake, getting out of their heads and feeling that space of light and love in the center of their heart, in the center of their chest. So I when I coach people and I do this, we become aware of our space, sitting either in a chair or on the floor, and then slowly just becoming aware of the breath, the rise and fall of the chest, those micro movements. Now, traditional, you know, when I first learned, it was watching the breath through the nostrils. But this is watching the rise and fall of the chest, those micro movements, and that gets you centered in that space. And then you start to bring in and imagine the light, that there's this ball of sunlight in the center of your chest, healing sunlight. And with each breath in, that expands just a little bit more. And then you marry that with that memory and that feeling of a person, a place, or a time that you felt deep, deep love. Maybe it's your children. Maybe it's a loved one that's passed on. Whatever brings you that deep sense of love and peace and joy. And you allow those two to marry in the center of your chest and allow each breath. It's like your cup runneth over. With each breath, that expands, and it just pours out from your heart center into your body. And you can use the breath, you can allow the breath to send it down through the extremities, through the legs, through the arms, through the torso. And then if you really want to go to the next level, it expands completely out of your body and into your room and into your environment. And, you know, I mean, that's how we heal the world, by being that love that we really, truly are.
I couldn't agree with you more there. I've practiced loving kindness meditation for many, many years, and that's the benefit. And when we start radiating that love within, then it goes out and it touches other people, and it can be in your immediate surrounding, or, you know, I'm a big believer that those vibrations can go across the world.
Yeah.
And it sounds it's the same with this meditation. And it's called the Love Meditation, and the CD is
One Heart. It's called One Heart Healing Meditation.
It's called One Heart. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So in the next, we got about, 5, 6, 7, or 8 minutes left here. I'm curious, something that always comes up, and it comes up on a lot of shows, and especially how meditation and our spiritual practices can alleviate this one particular thing in our lives. How would this be effective in the area of forgiveness and learning to let go of resentments and opening our heart that way to forgiving ourselves or forgiving other people?
That's a great one. You know, Michael, what my experience has been, and I had a lot of things to forgive. We all do. We all have something. That's what binds us. But my experience with forgiveness is it can happen in an instant. And I have found so many people that we feel like we have to struggle to forgive the guilt or forgive the shame and forgive ourselves. I have a friend who expressed to me that when he lost his wife suddenly, literally in his arms, who died of a sudden cardiac arrest. And he said to me, it's been about 1.5 years, and as soon as I can forgive myself for not being able to save her, I'll be able to move on. And my experience is that we can do that forgiveness in an instant. It's a choice, and when we connect in this meditation to the love that we are, there's instantaneous forgiveness. Like there's nothing to forgive. We are, as spirit or God, whatever word you choose, source, we are that. We are love. So we're already there. There's nothing left to forgive. And I think I've referred so many times to Anita Moorjani's book, Dying to Be Me, was one of my most popular books in the store because she's living proof that it doesn't have to take time. We think that there's got to be this time warp, that there's got to be a certain amount of time for us to be in forgiveness.
Kind of like therapy, like we have to go to therapy for X number of years, and if you put in your time and enough effort, then sure, you'll be able to forgive.
Yeah, it happens instantaneously. You know, to have a body that's filled with illness or pain or cancer or whatever it is, it doesn't matter what the illness is, the answer is always the same. Self-love. I am love. And so, you know, Anita learned that lesson in her near death. I look at it as I didn't have the near death to have the lesson. I had more of the mystical, spiritual experiences, but it gave me the same lesson, gave me the same information to move back to the truth, to move back to our natural self. And so the forgiveness happens in an instant. You know, when she came out of that, it didn't take X amount of time. And there's the medical community, by the way. You know, they did the same thing to me after I was, you know, had my miracle and I could walk again. They were still, for 2 or 3 days, looking for some explanation and waiting for it to go south. You know, we don't want to be too optimistic. They really thought it was a fluke. And that, you know, something was going to happen, that I was going to return to the state that I was in. And they do that as the CYA, you know, to cover themselves.
Yeah, and they're not always open to this this thing we've heard of called miracles. I know a few that are. I have some.
It's getting better.
It really is. I have some
better.
Some friends and family that are working in the medical field, and they have this awareness that miracles are in fact a very real thing, and they happen, like you said, with forgiveness. And that's what a miracle is. It just happens, boom, in a moment. You know, it's just like instantaneously. There it is. And I love what you're saying about forgiveness too, that forgiveness itself it's part of that miracle working through us, where it just happens instantaneously instead of having to, you know, beat yourself up for a long time and read a lot of books and go to the therapy. And so that's powerful. It's really powerful.
It's the difference in the paradigm. I really, really, truly believe that we are moving to this where, again, we don't have to stay stuck in the lessons and all of the, you know, what did I do to my chakras?
That's
Because
a great.
it's there.
I want that on a T-shirt. What did I do to my chakras? A bumper sticker.
I've owned a store for several years, and that's a lot of, what comes in. That was the gift and the blessing, was for me to be able to see where I needed to help in the world and in my community with what was coming in. And that was a lot of it was, chakra books. And
yeah.
it's great to have that awareness, but again, to not stay stuck in the head trying to figure it out. Because the brain never forgives,
That's a great point. That the mind rarely forgives. It really is about getting back into the heart, and once the heart fully opens, that's that instantaneous healing. That's that forgiveness that's coming through, and that's, I guess, what I would prefer to call a miracle. So we've got about a minute and a half. Didn't I tell you the show goes fast?
It does.
There's a minute and a half left here. So I want to be able to throw out your website again for anybody that's just tuning in. We've been talking to Martha Blessing, who has just released a new book called God is a Pink Cloud, and also has an amazing meditation CD coming out in probably sometime mid-July, early to mid-July. And that is called The Love Meditation. And you can learn about Martha's work by going to marthablessing.com. And it's just like it sounds, Martha and then Blessing, BLESSING.com. Martha, thank you so much for, like I said at the beginning of the show, I asked you, now it's been a couple of hours, 2.5 hours or whatever, but we're being very spontaneous, and I'm just so grateful for your willingness to come on today. And
thank you so much for having me.
And we'd love to have you back. So thank you very much for everybody listening, and Martha. Keep doing your thing out there. Show love, be kind, and make the world a more beautiful place. Again, it's marthablessing.com. Check out her work, and thanks for tuning into Hay House Radio.